Welcome to The Rebel Rebel, a podcast for creative rebels and entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Michael Darkey, and in this episode, we meet Randy Milanovic from Kayak Marketing. We get talking about what he's been up to, where he's been, and where he's headed. And it's a hell of a ride. He's come a long way from surviving stage 4 cancer to becoming a sought-after voice in content marketing. And his insights into how to improve your social media will have you going, oh yeah, that makes so much sense. It's an episode full of heartfelt, excellent advice for rebels wherever you are in your journey. He's an entrepreneur, an author, a craft beer enthusiast, incredible human, and all-around great guy with a super groovy hat. I hope you enjoy the show. The Rebel Rebel is sponsored by the Friday Sock Company, home of the ethically made, purposefully mismatched socks that make every day feel like a Friday. Get your own kick-ass mismatched socks at FridaySocks.com. Welcome to the Rebel Rebel. I am sitting here in Kensington studio with none other than Randy Milanovic. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm good. We had just talked about, I was going to try and pronounce it Milanovic.
It's actually pretty good.
It's not bad?
No.
Yeah. Would your dad be proud?
Probably not.
Awesome. Well, Randy has come down here from Kayak Marketing and Flow Sites. And you've got a great story for how you ended up being here. You have a great hat, by the way.
Thank you.
I really admire your hat game. And
$8 at Marshall's.
What? No way. They're going to be a sponsor of the show. But I thought what we do is we kick this off by finding out sort of what is it that Kayak does, what is it that Flowsite does, who are you, Randy, doing these things, and we'll sort of go from there. So can you give us sort of a Reader's Digest condensed version of your business as it stands right now, and then we'll figure out how you got there.
Yeah, absolutely. So previous to Kayak, we were a design firm. We ran that firm for 12 years.
Okay.
During that time, we did a fair amount of business, but never really made any, there was never any claim to fame. We paid the bills type thing.
Sure.
In 2009, late 2009, you probably remember that was the end of the downturn, or near the end of the downturn.
Right, that was brutal.
Yeah, and then it just so happened at the same time as that downturn was happening and some of our business was drying up, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer.
What?
Yeah, so that was quite a year.
No kidding.
And anyway, it didn't take me out. It tried. I survived. But the thing was when I came back, it was about a year later. I got back to my office, and I took a look at what was left of the business.
Yeah.
And what I found was there wasn't a lot there. There was requests for emails. Requests for website design, requests for PDFs, that kind of thing. It was all electronic. So people weren't looking for brochures, business cards, displays, things like that, at least not at that time.
Yeah.
So I looked at that and I talked to Paul, who was still in the business with me at that point. We're down to just the two of us. Well, actually, it was kind of him because I was out of the mix for a while.
Out of the picture.
And he kept that going. And then we looked at that and we decided that if we're going to do digital, that we really wanted to do it well. Right. So this was 2010, and we started to figure out just how we would do that. So I spent probably about 18 months just researching how online was done, and I looked at the way that SEO worked.
Yeah,
I saw a lot of things like keyword stuffing and things like that. That just didn't seem right to me.
Is it dark magic? Just as an aside, is SEO like dark arts?
No, it's actually pretty straightforward today.
Okay.
Back in those days, it was all how much you could cheat. So coming into it, I'll say at a later stage in the game.
Yeah.
For me, I never learned how to cheat. So that was kind of interesting. So I went in and I looked at how Google wanted websites to be, how to be a quality website. This was before they launched Hummingbird, which was the algorithm update that really made a big difference.
Oh, right.
And that was in 2011 when they launched that. But what had happened before that is I was just observing how content displayed properly, distributed properly, attracted people, and more importantly, attracted links, which attracted more people.
Right.
And I saw how that was working, and I jotted down some notes, and I said, well, I think this is how it's working, this is how it's working. And then one of my colleagues says, hey, you should turn that into a book.
Oh.
So I thought, yeah, okay, let's do it. So we spent about a week, and we put some notes together, and we came up with 21 different ways that content was impacting SEO. We self-published through Amazon.
Yeah.
and it did pretty well. I'll say did pretty well because on I think it was about a month later,
Yeah.
Google launched this Hummingbird, and they confirmed everything in the book.
Really?
The book took off. It was number one globally, with the exception of Japan, where it made number 3.
No, really? Damn, son.
So, there's literally thousands and thousands and thousands of copies of our book out there. I say our because it was Paul and I and one of my colleagues who kind of put it together.
That's so fun.
And I kind of got the opportunity to put my name on it, but everybody helped.
Yeah.
And of course, editors always help too. So
Yeah.
At that time, I didn't know how to write. I'm a little bit better at that now.
Well, you've got a couple books under your belt now.
I do. I've got 4 now.
Wow.
So, and the 5th one coming.
That's awesome.
But the interesting part about this book was it really set us up away from how you cheat to how you utilize the web in a more constructive, effective, and helpful way.
Right.
So
right.
it was basically
Honest way?
Yeah, and do it in from a content marketing perspective, which is giving people information that they're searching for.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And if you give people information they're looking for, they actually come and see it.
What? That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Who would have
So
thought?
You don't have to cheat. So I don't know why all those people were cheating.
Yeah.
So we did that. I think to date, we've attracted about, I think, 1,400 linking domains, most of them in high values. Okay. So we, if we want to rank for something, we can very quickly. I start speaking or writing on the topic, and we can rank for it fairly quickly because we have quite a significant number of linking domains of high quality.
Right.
That was all done because of having really good content. So did that. That really worked really well. And in doing that and looking at the way we were doing the graphic design work before, we realized there was something else happening. And that something else happening was that we were no longer doing graphic design.
Oh.
We were doing content. So
are you a designer by trade?
I am. I was a member of the GDC for 18 years. So GDC is the Graphic Designers of Canada.
Wow.
So I have a top 300 in the world logo. Worked on all Stampede stuff before I did 5 years of Stampede.
Wow.
Helping with everything from advertising to the logos to the posters, the whole bit,
Yeah.
buses, bus advertising and all that.
Did it sting a little not to be doing that work?
No, actually, it was really hard in the beginning to move from being a designer that loved the work that I did to being a content marketer and thinking about the reader first.
Right.
And not making it my baby, but making it their baby.
Right.
There was a transition in that that was, I don't know how to say it, but maybe it just, I felt that it became a little bit less creative.
Right.
So with a bit of a caveat, because when it became less creative, less I want to make that color perfect, and I made it more acceptable or mainstream, more people came to see it and consume it.
Huh.
So the response to it was much higher.
Interesting.
I think because it wasn't so tailored to my liking, it was more tailored to the population out there that was responding to what we were doing. Right. That was a big lesson. I decided at that time that it wasn't so important. It wasn't about me, that it was about who was receiving it.
Right.
And that changed the way we did things.
Huh.
One of the things that that we realized too is there are standards out there that if we adhere to the standards, we can deliver a very high quality website.
Right.
That's not that does more than look good.
Right.
That actually works.
Right.
That attracts leads, that helps people generate leads and grow their businesses, which is where we transitioned to. So one of the revelations we had was that being a design firm was not a prerequisite to being a content marketing firm.
Right.
They were two very different things.
Sure.
So we made a decision to close the design firm and open a content marketing firm, and that was Kayak Marketing.
Wow.
And so when we did that, it was a little bit of a leap of faith. How would I say that again? So yeah, it was a leap of faith in pivoting to a new business model.
Yeah.
Coming from a design background, it was foreign territory, but at the same time, it just felt like it was the right thing to do.
Huh.
Every fiber in my being said, we have to do this. And I looked out there at all the ad agencies and whatnot, and I thought, wow, these ad agencies are still doing things the old way. They're still being graphic designers. They're still being videographers. They're still being ad buyers and ad sellers.
Yeah.
And none of them are really providing a consultancy type service and empowering clients. And I said, that's another thing I want to change.
Right. Well, and that's a huge thing about Kayak too, is that you educate and this is not a plug for Kayak, but I know on your website and from having talked to you before that you do a great deal of work to educate your clients so they can look after themselves.
Absolutely.
Which seems dumb.
Well, if I remember back in the design days, it was like, don't tell the client how to run that Photoshop because they'll know how to do it and you won't have any work.
Yeah, that's not true.
And I call bullshit on that real fast.
100%.
Because what has actually happened is that the more I teach clients how to do those things, the greater the conversation becomes.
Yeah.
Because now we're not bogged down in tasks. Now we get to move to strategic conversations.
Right.
Now, those things actually have a significantly higher value.
Sure. So I got a quick question for you. If you're creating content, like, do you create content for people or bots? Because I have this
Always
conversation.
for people.
What's that?
Always for people.
Always for people.
Yeah. The reality of it is when we're talking about Google specifically, they're looking for content that is helpful to the consumer, to the reader, to the person that downloads it or reads it or views it or whatnot. Yeah. They're looking for things that are not for the bots.
Right.
So people, if people are still working towards doing things for the bots, it's going to be ignored by Google. So they're wasting their time and they're wasting their money.
Yeah.
So why don't they just talk to people?
Right. Right. You know, I've been having this argument, it seems like, for a decade.
Yeah. Back in the days, people would say, well, I'm going to hire an SEO firm. I'm going to hire a pay-per-click firm, and they do these things. Yeah. I tell you right now, first of all, pay-per-click is you really don't have to do it. In the almost 10 years now that we've had Kayak, we have done less than $500 in advertising. And I do those begrudgingly because content works so much better.
Great. Oh, my God. If I create so inspired.
If I create a document that says, here's the way to do this, or here's our findings or our insights on this, and we share that out there, people consume that freely and voluntarily of their own will. Yeah. And when they do that, they generally have done it after they've read a couple of pages of content. So they read a few pages of content, they download the document, they come back and visit your site, they subscribe to your blog. Next thing you know, you have 50 views on your site or 50 page views. Right. Somebody who does 50 page views on your site is interested in what you're doing.
Right. Crazy.
Now you can reach out to them, or more likely they'll reach out to you and say, hey, Randy, or hey, whoever, let's talk about this, and you have a conversation.
Crazy.
When you have that conversation, it's very, very different than somebody saying, hey, I saw you had 20% off on that product.
Right.
And you go, oh, okay, so I'm gonna earn less on this because it's the only way to attract you. Yeah. And advertising tends to be in that vein where you're discounting. So rather than discounting, we're offering value. The value is for free, almost. They do have to, if they want to download something, you want to give an email address.
Yeah, sure. So
it reveals who they are. Yeah. If somebody uses a throwaway email like a Gmail or something instead of their domain, we pretty much just ignore it.
Oh, okay.
We don't respond to throwaway emails. Yeah. They can still have our content. We don't care. It's branded. It's out there.
Sure.
It doesn't hurt us for somebody to download our stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're from a foreign country and they want to duplicate our site, which has happened.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Okay. It happens every now and then, and people. I just considered another form of syndication.
Right.
We're fortunate enough over the years now we've published a tremendous number of blog posts.
Do you ever run out of ideas?
Never. No, there's always ideas, because the interesting thing about creating content that's original is you could either do something planned, like a survey, which will give you all sorts of ideas on what to write, or you just respond to what either excites you or pisses you off.
Yeah,
which
right
is
on.
My favorite.
Pissed off or excited?
Oh, maybe 50-50.
Call them.
No, 60-40.
60-40.
I'll go with pissed off first, because then I'm motivated to just hammer, and you will hear me pressing my key. It'll be bam, 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 bam.
Right. Randy's in a mood.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll just hammer that out, and I just write until I'm finished writing.
Yeah.
And it might be one paragraph. It might be book length. When I'm done, then I take it to one of my editors and I say, okay, make something out of this.
Yeah.
As long as they don't change what I'm.
Awesome.
Yeah. So as long as they don't change the meaning or whatnot of what I've done, they don't change my words too much.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. They do an edit. They basically clean up all my grammar.
Yeah.
Things like that. My typos and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it comes back to me, and then I rewrite it again.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So they correct me technically.
Yeah.
I'll write the content from usually an emotional standpoint, which I kind of enjoy.
Yeah.
Because that's my motivation. I get it written. They edit it up to make it a little bit clearer, and I'll go in and I'll make sure that nothing has been removed, that my meaning is there, that my language is there, that my attitude
the randitude.
That's right. And then I'll release it, whether it's in book form or in blog posts.
Amazing.
But the doing that content on a regular basis is kind of interesting because I never set out to be a writer.
Yeah.
But somehow I amassed quite a volume of written work.
That's wild.
Which is kind of fun.
What I love to hear is sending it to an editor, and I don't mean to have an aha moment, but it's one of those things where I write all the time, but then I suffer over the grammar and typos and stuff like that. And
It's two different jobs,
right? And I'm not that guy.
Yeah,
yeah. So
I don't. I shouldn't say I don't ever. I almost always go through an editor.
Yeah, that's great.
The copy editors, they know their punctuation and things. I've learned. What's the Chicago style? Yeah. Now, because I have editors, which I would have no clue before, I know where my comma goes.
Oh, nice. Are you an Oxford comma guy?
I'm totally an Oxford comma
guy.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. That's right. There's no such thing as not Oxford comma.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you a double spacer? Are you a double spacer now?
Never.
Okay, good. Well, because you're a designer, so you would know this.
Yeah. Well, back in the day, I mean, the double spacer is a giveaway that we use the typewriter.
Right. Yeah.
I used the typewriter when I was in high
school,
school, not when I was in after high school.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. Oh my God.
But to take it back to your original question, is the big transition was, I had a design firm. Before that, I was agency based. I was working in agencies. I hated the agency world. I hated the agency model. I went independent, became a freelancer, turned that into a design firm. Yeah. Did that for about 12 years. Closed that, opened Kayak with the intent to educate our clients.
Yeah, amazing.
Because to me, that's what I felt it was missing. Is there was a focus on billable hours, not on client success.
Right.
And so that was the shift that we made to Kayak, is we're going to focus on client success, and the key component of that was that they learned how to do it.
That's amazing. Okay. Do your clients do it, or do they have you do it, but now they know what's being done?
If a client asks me to do it, sometimes we'll do it for them.
Yeah.
If they ask too many times, we release them.
Really?
Yeah.
So it really is. It's not just lip service to that model. It's like
not at all.
Yeah.
If somebody comes in as a new prospect, and you can imagine, we get a lot of leads every month. So I'd say anywhere a low month would be about 40 companies asking us to work with them.
Oh my God.
To a high of about 80.
Jesus.
Our capacity is 2 new clients per month.
Holy moly! So you're pretty picky.
So we're very picky.
Yeah.
So part of the process, our onboarding, is having discussions. We don't quote. Very rarely we'll do an RFP response, but it's very rare. It might be twice a year.
Yeah.
And we almost always lose them because we hate them.
Yeah.
So we kind of set ourselves up to lose them.
Yeah, I can't stand RFPs, man. I'd ignore them entirely.
Yeah. The what happens and when we're being picky is we'll go through the onboarding process, and we have some unique ways of vetting. One of those ways is we follow a scoring process that I learned from Marty Tascona. Marty Tascona is a local sales coach.
Okay.
And a few years ago, he taught me TEMO, which is TEMO, which stands for time, effort, money, and emotion. TEMO. So it's a score of 1 for time, 2 for effort, 4 for money, and 8 for emotion. So if I don't get a 4 or 8 in the conversation, we release them. We say sorry. We don't take them on.
Interesting.
Yeah. So if it's time.
Yeah.
It's a conversation. I hear things in the conversation like, yeah, I think I'd like to get around to doing that. There's no sense of urgency there.
Sure. Yeah.
If its effort is, oh man, it's so hard, we might be able to change that conversation, but they're obviously not committed to getting it done. They're not thinking about outcomes, they're thinking about their efforts.
Right.
Another one, and we get into money, then a conversation, it depends on that money conversation. Is it, oh man, I'm bleeding money, I got to do something, in which case it's actually emotion.
Right.
It's not money.
Yeah.
And the other one is, okay, this is my budget, I can't meet your budget, and we say, okay, well, budget is a factor of scope. Let's take a look at that scope.
Right.
So I can change, I can close a deal on scope.
Yeah.
I can close a deal on emotion.
Yeah.
Oh my God, don't look at my website. Guess what? I just won that account right now.
Yeah.
Because I have the answers. I know how to fix a website, I know how to deploy a website.
Yeah.
The second book we wrote was 10 steps to how you deploy a successful website in today's environment.
Yeah.
So we wrote that initially in 2014, I think it was.
Wow.
And I looked at it the other day and we updated one chapter.
Really? So it's still relevant.
Still relevant.
Yeah, oh,
and
that's awesome.
and it's a full book length. We turned that into a LMS, a learning management. So people can take the courses free, and they'll learn how. We basically took the book and made it online, including scoring rubrics, the whole thing.
How did you do your learning management? Like Thinkific or something?
Yeah, we did it on Thinkific. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's a wonderful platform.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of any of the platform's scoring tools or quiz tools. They're pretty rudimentary. I wish they had a better one so people could demonstrate their knowledge.
Right.
Versus just check their memory.
Yeah.
That would be better. So the only way to do it now is people, could upload there, and then you have to monitor the uploads, and so it's not so good.
Yeah.
But anyway, we have the book on LMS, and also with that book, we basically made it freely available. If you buy it through Amazon, it's like $3.99 or $3 or something like that.
Yeah.
Very low cost, and you can go do it yourself if you want to. This is core to our belief that people can do it themselves.
Yeah.
There's no magic. The only thing that's happening when people say that there's something about it, it's just smoke and mirrors.
Right.
It's not difficult
Right.
to understand who your client is. You just ask them what they need.
What? That's not right, Randy. You can't do that.
Yeah, just interview your client. Take one client, take 10 clients, take 100 clients, and just ask them the questions about what their needs are and what their challenges are, and see if you can help them with those things. If you can't help them with those things, then say you can't help them.
Right. Moving on.
Yeah, so that's a scenario with us. When a prospect comes to us, I score them on Timo. If I get a 4 or 8, I know I've got a likely candidate. Another part of that is I'm listening for indications that they're not do it for me.
Right.
They don't want us to do it because if that's the case, they need to go to an ad agency. They'll be happy to bill them for those things. It'll cost them 10 times as much.
Right.
Or they can come to us and we'll walk them through a program that helps them understand how to do it there properly for them and is tailored to them. An engagement with us like that might be a year, it might be a year and a half. Part of that engagement is the first phase. We go through all of standard marketing things, discovery, personas, building a roadmap of how to market to their prospective clients based on behavior. Okay, role and behavior. That's a very important thing. Most people build personas or avatars based on their products and services. It's just a waste of time.
Sure.
They're wasting their time because it's focused on them, not on their prospect.
Yeah.
But if you apply some behavior modeling against the prospects, it doesn't matter what the product or service is, you can see how people purchase. And you can customize your delivery of content or information to that process. In which case, you have 2, maybe 3 personas is all you need for a business. If you have 6, 7, 10, 25 personas, guess what? They're all wasted.
Right. Yeah, of course.
You're now writing to non-existent things.
Yeah.
So you're wasting your time. You're blowing money.
Yeah.
You're blowing effort. You're losing time that you could have had securing good quality clients.
Yeah.
If you base your personas on behavior.
Time and effort, man. That's like there's magic in there.
Yeah. So anyway, we take clients through that, and then immediately on the tail end of that, we put them into coaching, and we have a program where people learn everything from the minutia of file naming and how that actually impacts the quality of their site, all the way up to strategic deployment and assessing competing websites.
Oh, wow.
So full gamut. I think we have about 18 modules that we can teach or coach. I want to be careful about those words because they mean different things.
Yeah.
It's a coaching environment. We bring clients in or we do web meetings, or we go see them. Most of the time it's web meetings, so they come in. We hardly ever travel. We'll go through and we have a conversation on a topic, and then we give them assignments to practice what they learned in that.
Interesting.
Okay, and then they go away for a week or two, and then we do the next session, and each session builds on the next or on the previous.
So do they actually do their own website then, or do you do like the first one and then hand it over to them? Like I'm starting to freak out.
So yeah, here's the big secret is the client does their own website.
Wow. What if it sucks?
If it sucks, it's their website. Quite honestly, and sometimes it does. But they are empowered to do it, so we provide them with all the tools. So we do usually when we create a website with a client, we do build 3 key pages, and then we use them as references when people go in and build the rest of their sites.
Yeah.
So we do a homepage.
Yeah.
In a homepage, the scenario is we show them how to bring in each of their personas and take them into a specific area within the site for each persona.
Gotcha.
And we're writing every single page specific to a persona.
Yeah.
You go into a site, you go into one page, it's for this persona, you go into another page for a different persona. The writing may be entirely different because it's made for different people.
Sure.
It's made for different behaviors and website visitor behavior as well. So we do the homepage, and that helps route people to the right spot, and we start to show how to apply behavior modeling to the content on the site.
Right.
So that's a significant one. We always do that one.
Yeah.
Then we do a conversion page, being it may be a contact page, but more likely it's a download, an offer type page.
Right.
And in that scenario, we show them how to do lead generation, lead capture, and automation for the back end of the site.
Nice.
And then the third page is usually a more standard page. It might be an inside page, and we just show them how to produce consistent internal pages. And then on top of that, we now take them in and explain to them how strategically to apply a link strategy within the site.
Cool. Wow.
So linking from one page to another, how we use contextual navigation, being a side menu, how we use CTAs or calls to action, which would generally take people to an offer page or that download page, how we use links within content, and how the deployment of those links can create what would appear to be almost invisible sales funnels within your site, which is the key to lead generation.
Interesting.
Okay, so we create those 3 pages. We coach the clients on how to deploy their own content, even how to edit and write their content.
Yeah.
Advise them on getting an editor,
Nice.
and not to offload it, especially even to the point of social media. If you go into social media, you see a lot of firms saying, "Okay, I need somebody to do my social media posting. I need somebody to run my AdWords, stuff like that." And what they don't realize is the social media aspect of business, especially small businesses and business to business, is networking.
Right. Like actual networking?
Yeah. So you can imagine that if I hired
like
you,
meeting somebody?
Yeah. You can imagine in a lot of people think, oh, I just need somebody to do my social media for me. And they're thinking of it as a task that they need to have done. So think of it as a posting activity, but it's not a posting activity. It's a networking activity. So it's an opportunity to build relationships. So if you have a third party doing that, guess who's building a relationship?
Right. Third party.
So you're paying somebody else to get better connections.
Wait a second. Hold the presses.
Doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it doesn't. And I have a huge issue with social media in general, simply because it's awash with this sort of nonsense, that it's not about connections whatsoever. It's not about, feeding off of anybody else's link or, commenting on stuff that they're doing. It's just blarging out into the world.
Yeah, I consider that if you hire somebody, or if you've been doing it yourself and you're just posting to social media, you're a spammer.
Right. That's awesome.
You're not creating conversations. You're not building relationships. You're interrupting people.
Right.
You're contributing to the spam that's out there.
The noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're not adding value.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a time where you put a picture of, I'm hiking and having fun and hey, I went to this trail and I met these people and you're posting that, but that's storytelling.
Right.
That's starting a conversation. Somebody else tells you about their hike. Maybe they went to the same place.
Sure.
Maybe they want to know where you went.
Yeah.
Have conversations. Those conversations that are not about business is what builds business.
What? Stop it, Randy. I love that, though. This is fantastic.
This is
if you think about this just for a second. So I mentioned before we started recording, I mentioned that back in the good old Google Plus days, I had the amazing experience of having or attracting about 30,000 followers.
man.
So the interesting thing is those followers came to me not because I was talking about being marketing or business or whatever, but I was talking about hiking. I was talking about travel. I was talking about my love of craft beer. So what happened is people started communicating with me about hiking, about traveling, about craft beer, about whatever else. I talked to them about, there was one community we were in, it was called Cloud Wars. And people would post pictures of the clouds that they saw in the sky. And sometimes they're absolutely beautiful, gorgeous pictures, and sometimes they're pretty bad.
Yeah.
But you know what? What happened is the people who were in those groups had a similar likeness or interest in the clouds.
Sure.
It was storming, it was sunsetting, it was something was going on.
Yeah.
And so you had conversations on that. And when you did that, you opened up conversations between two people from different businesses who may or may not ever work together.
Yeah.
But something else was happening, and that's something else that was happening was you were building relationships. So right now, as a result of those kinds of things, I can make a phone call to Croatia and I can say, "Hey, Mommer, can you help me with a project?" And you say, "What can I do for you, Randy?"
Right.
Okay. I may have never met this person in real life. By the way, I did meet Mommer. I went to his office. He's come to mine.
We're big fans of Croatia.
On a similar vein, I'm going to South Africa this coming May.
Yeah.
The reason I'm going there is because I met somebody through Google Plus who works there as a marketer who told me about Kruger Park and told me I could do a safari by renting a car
And camp.
and camping.
God.
So I'm going to do it.
That's awesome.
And I'm going to get there, and him and his family are going to outfit me, make sure I've got a safe vehicle, understand I've got maps and stuff like that. They'll send me on my way, and they'll check on me. And they may even give me a bed in their extra room on the first night I land there.
Yeah.
Because I met them in Google Plus and had a conversation that wasn't about business.
That's amazing. Are you
you
going to
know
get a
what?
pith helmet?
Sorry?
Are you going to get a pith helmet?
No, I don't think so. I have my own camping hat.
Okay. Good. Just had to check.
As opposed to my hat I'm wearing now.
Yeah.
I'll change it up for camping. But yeah, so this is the idea. So that having a mutual interest in something is what happens. Now, there's absolutely no way that somebody else can have that conversation for you.
Right.
Your junior can't do it.
Right.
So I think the reality of it is when people start thinking about these kinds of things, what they're thinking about is in a retail sense, they want to show people pictures of their products and they're showcasing products. And I think in a retail environment, that still works because somebody says, "Oh, look at the new gadget from XYZ company."
Right. I can see myself using that
Yeah.
thing.
Oh, there's a new version of it. Oh, I just bought a little case of lenses for my iPhone.
Yeah.
If that comes up in my feed, I'm like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." I might even respond to, "Hey, that's a new bottle opener. It'll open my craft beer."
Right.
I'll respond to that because it's appropriate for who I am. But they're not just, these aren't just people spamming their account saying, "Come buy my stuff, come buy my stuff." These are people floating things past me that actually have some reference to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I did an experiment, started a couple of years ago, still running it, is in Instagram, my entire account there is all craft beer. And I only follow people that are into craft beer.
Interesting.
So I wanted to see what kind of advertising I would be subjected to.
Yeah. All right.
And you know what's happened is I get breweries and restaurants and craft beer supplies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And almost all the time. Occasionally somebody does software and they target it. I guess they think we're
Beer drinkers. Yeah.
beer drinkers doing software. But other than that, I don't get anything else. The experiment is what happens when I I follow somebody that's not in that group.
Right.
And so I did. I followed a couple people from the California coast who are really good people that don't really have a focus in their social media. They post about everything. And almost immediately, my entire Instagram was flooded with useless ads from all over the place.
Weird.
I unfollowed them.
Wow.
I got back to the stuff again. I got back to craft beer related stuff. So that was an interesting little experiment. So yeah, so you go to Craft Beer Randy, and you'll see I've got probably 200 or 300 posts just of craft beer.
Wow.
And I only like stuff on related craft beer, and then the ads I get are usually really targeted to craft beer fans.
Right. Which I'm assuming
So-
you appreciate.
Well, and I don't mind the ads.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd still rather see somebody drinking beer.
Sure.
Yeah, hopefully somebody's not doing it in front of a couple of body parts, because that happens too. You follow the wrong one, next thing you know, you got a jug of beer sitting on a couple of body parts.
Right.
And so I tried not to follow those ones, because they suddenly can be really crazy, because they tend to be
Right.
pretty popular.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of that. So that's actually part of our coaching session on social media.
Yeah.
Is that it's conversation starting. That's the whole reason.
That's
When
great.
we write a blog post, when we do a post in just a regular post, it's to start conversations.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
I love that. I think that's empowering and enlightening, and I think we need more of that online.
Well, and I think another part of that is as soon as people realize they don't have to post because they have to post, they don't not like it anymore. Now
Right.
they enjoy it because they have conversations.
Yeah.
Now it's no longer the social media needs to be offloaded. Now it's, hey, give me my social.
Right.
Big difference.
Because you're having fun with it.
Yeah, you're having conversations, you're learning, you're growing. You follow people that you learn from or appreciate or like or enjoy. People follow you, you engage with people, and you have conversations that get closer and closer to what you would have offline.
Yeah. No, it's
You
fun.
start talking about real life things instead of goofy crap.
Right. And you meet genuine people as opposed to,
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. That's wild. Okay. I have this question is pretty simple, I think. You talked about your website stuff. Are you like a WordPress only guy? Are you a Wix guy? Are you a Squarespace guy? Like what's the skinny on the fat there?
Well, our high quality sites are all done on HubSpot.
Oh, okay.
Our introductory or less mature business sites. I would say a company who isn't marketing focused, who has still got a little bit of the advertising focus,
Yeah.
like isn't really up to speed, they will not be able to execute a HubSpot site as well, because HubSpot is meant for content.
Oh,
So you have to produce content. You have to want to measure the content.
okay.
That's the magic of HubSpot. So we do HubSpot fully, HubSpot deployments, no hybrid sites if we can help it. If we have an intermediate or a junior site that we've taken on, or company we've taken on, we'll put them into WordPress, where we have our own theme that mirrors the functionality of a HubSpot site.
Oh, okay.
That comes in at a significantly lower price point. So to give you an idea, somebody comes to us as Kayak, as I mentioned, it's a year and a half engagement.
Yeah.
If they're not spending $60,000 with us or greater over that time,
Yeah.
they're probably not fully engaged with us.
Sure.
Okay, we get into a WordPress environment that it can literally start at $100 a year.
Right. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. And so you've got this whole new thing
Yeah,
that you
so this-
created called
Yeah.
Flow with 3Ws sites.com, right?
Yeah, flow sites. It's kind of a funny thing. So back when we were a graphic design firm, we took orders. Every time somebody came to us, they said, I want a logo, I want this, or I want that.
Right.
And we'd build it for them. And then, especially in the case of a logo or a brochure, we designed 2 or 3 versions or 10 versions, and the client would pick the one they wanted, and we'd just take the order and we'd produce it, and we were quite happy, and we generated business that way.
Yeah.
A number of years into that, I lost my love of creating 10 versions of something to give a client, to sell a client one. And I realized that
Yeah.
almost every situation, what happened is I would create the first one, I'd put all of my heart and soul and thinking into it, and the second and third and fourth and up to 10th one would be alternates.
Sure.
And in my view, we're always lesser.
Yeah.
So I have a story to share with you. I don't know how much time we have today, but I've got lots of stories, but I try to keep this one short.
Yeah.
There was a time in probably 2007, 2008, where I experienced that every time I presented our creative work to a client, they would pick the worst one. Drove me absolutely crazy, because
Right.
I'd have this beautiful work and have these alternates, and
Right.
they'd always pick the worst one, the very worst one in my eyes.
Yeah.
And I realized that I didn't realize. I thought that I just lost my touch.
Yeah.
I thought, man, I
I
can't sell anything I want to sell. It's
Yeah.
terrible. And then I sat down one day. I was having coffee with my uncle. My uncle is in his 80s, and I always considered him this eccentric gentleman. he was hard to make. You sit down with a conversation with him, and you never knew if he was having the same conversation as you. It was always felt a bit odd.
Yeah.
And I would go to coffee with him, and we'd go to Tim's. He'd take a bus across town as a senior. That's the way he got out of town and saw the city.
Oh,
and I'd
that's
meet him over by Marlborough Mall here in town, and in the Tim Hortons, and we'd sit down and we'd have a conversation. And I almost every time, I mean, we'd be half an hour into a conversation before I'd start to get what he was talking about.
Right.
And I thought, he's kind of a crazy old guy, but this is kind of fun. And then one day I thought, hey, I'm going to do something a little bit different. And I'm going to shut up and I'm going to listen. And so he sat there and he talked and he talked and he talked. And I got to a point where I realized that the reason I couldn't understand what he was doing is because I wasn't listening to him. Once I started listening to him, I realized he was a brilliant man.
Yeah.
And I started paying more attention to him, and I kept my mouth shut, and I kept my ears open, and I listened. I started to understand things that were so much greater than I'd ever thought coming from him before. And my whole thoughts of him changed from, hey, this is kind of a crazy old man, but kind of fun, to, wow, this is a brilliant man, and I have to pay attention.
Right.
And then one day, he's a fine artist, and he's been a fine artist all his life. And I went to him and I said, his name is Wally. I said, Uncle Wally. I said, I've got my work. I'm doing a presentation, I've just done a presentation, and they picked the worst one again, and I just don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And of course, as a fine artist, he's used to presenting. And
Sure.
his method of doing art is really interesting. He does commissions. He gathers people into a room, and he has a bunch of his artwork displayed around in a circle, and he gives everybody a bunch of dots when they walk in.
Oh, fun.
And
Yeah,
they
little
put
heat
dots. Yeah, they do dots on each of the paintings or whatnot that they like.
Yeah.
And then everybody gets their own color. So he goes around and he knows who's got which color, and there's a conversation, says, what do you like about that? And you say, well, I like the way the clouds are done on that. I like the stream, and that is mostly urban or rural scapes.
Yeah.
And I like the way this, I like that color, whatever. And he said, okay. He says, I can do a piece for you, putting all those pieces together. So he does commissions based on that.
Interesting.
And he sells them, and he does all watercolors. His stuff is incredibly detailed. It's just incredible work. And anyway, so he's used to presenting, and I noticed when he does this, he doesn't take anything personally.
Right.
It's all logical. You like that cloud? I'll draw you another cloud. You like that stream? I'll draw you another stream. You want a horse, or do you want a buggy, or do you want a horse and buggy, or do you want a car?
Well, then they feel that it's theirs.
Yeah.
Right. It's unique to them.
Yeah, and so people get these commissions of his work, and it's all just amazing stuff. And it could be 3 months, 6 months, a year later when you get it.
Wow.
Whatever it gets around, he does them all. And anyway, so he says, well, why don't you present to me? So I did. So I took out, I had, at that time, I had 3 brochures that I had presented to a client.
Yeah.
And so I did my presentation. I ran it through the same way as I did with the client.
Yeah.
And my uncle sat there, and he went quiet. And he was quiet. I can't remember if it was 5 minutes or 15 minutes, but it seemed like forever.
Yeah.
Where he didn't even, you couldn't even hear him breathe. He was so quiet, and I thought, maybe I should shake him. And then he looked up at me. He says, okay. He says, have you ever seen one of my paintings where I show a rock in a stream? And I said, yeah. He says, do you ever notice the direction that the water goes? And I said, yeah, it flows around. He says, it doesn't only flow around. He says, it also spouts up. He says, because the water comes down, hits the rock, and splashes upwards, sideways, whatever, and goes around. Yeah. He says, what's happening is I want you to think about that the splash that's going up. He says, the way you presented to me, he says, I want you to keep in mind that when somebody's presented with a decision, it's stressful.
Right.
They may not know it. It might be subconscious. But so what happens is, what I had done is I had presented my favorite piece first. So what happens in the mind of the recipient is they look at that, they're in a stress environment. The way they release the stress, they make a decision.
Right. Not this one, we want to see what's next.
That's right. So they make the decision, they relax. Now you show them the second one. They haven't said anything out loud, but in their mind, they've made a decision.
Right.
Okay. So they said, I'm going to reject that. Now they relax. Now they look at the second one and now they're clear and the stress is gone. They look at the second one and they take it much more earnestly. They look at it much more carefully because now they don't have the stress response.
Right.
So they look at that. And then, so what invariably happens is 9 times out of 10, they say yes to the second one. And the third one only wins if it's remarkably better than the second one.
Yeah.
So the first one is out, second one wins, third one is a maybe.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'll test that theory.
Oh, neat.
So then I went out and I presented, and I changed the way I presented. I knew this was happening. I would do three things, and almost every single time the second one was presented. Very seldom the third one, and the first one was almost never accepted. And I said, okay, this is power. Now I can determine. Now I'm going to put my favorite one second. And I went, oh my goodness, that would be bad. Because now I have a conscience. Now I know I can manipulate the situation.
Oh, interesting. And they won't be really picking the one that's the best.
That's right.
Wow.
And this is one of those things. I love behavior, understanding how the mind works, because this was fed right into that for me. It's always been a pet thing for me. So I looked at that and I could just see the water splashing up on that first one.
Yeah.
And now I got it. So thank you, Uncle Wally, for teaching me this. So what happened in that scenario is now I could see that I could manipulate the presentation and have the client accept the one that I wanted, and I immediately felt bad.
Right. Did that now lose meaning that they were picking it because of behavioral choices as opposed to the fact that it is better than...
Well, what happened at that point is now I realized that I can manipulate it, and that the ability to manipulate the situation now felt really terrible to me, as I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I tried a few different things after that. I would try where I would put the creative work into envelopes that were unlabeled. And we'd sit around a table and people would randomly pick envelopes.
Oh,
so everybody got a
fun.
different envelope, and then they were to look at the piece, put it back in the envelope, mix it back on the table. Somebody else would pick that. And so everybody had a different first choice.
Right.
And everybody had a different second choice, third choice, however many there were. So I would mix it up that way.
Far out.
And I did it that way at times, and people would vote, and it's all silent.
Uh-huh.
So the creative was based on everybody's preference, and people would vote on theirs, and we'd get votes instead of somebody picking the second one.
Right.
So I did that for a while, and it was pretty tedious. Didn't always work. So I decided in I think it was 2008 that we would only do one,
Okay.
because that was our best work anyway.
Right. Why bother with...
Yeah.
Interesting.
So we changed our presentation on how we did it, and we would say to a client, okay, we're going to come back to you with our absolute best response.
Yeah.
It will be our best creative work. We will only do a second one if A, we goofed up,
Yeah.
and we weren't paying attention to the conversation we had, because there should be no surprises.
Sure.
Or B, if there's something we find that we can't do because there's a valid reason for it, then we make an adjustment. But the first one would be the only one.
Right.
So the second one would be a tweak of the first one.
Yeah.
It would never be a completely new, different one.
Yeah, sure.
And we've changed that to now a single presentation, and we've run single item presentations ever since.
Love
and
it.
we have buy-in in 99% of the time.
Huh.
Yeah, very seldom somebody will say, "Oh, I need to change," because
Well, that
there are
takes
no
the
surprises
pressure
there.
off as
Yeah.
well. If you know you're getting the best thing and people are listening.
Yeah. Well, again, I take back to my uncle and the way he was presenting, and he does his dots. We're kind of doing the same thing. Is we say, okay, what do people need? And we're basing it in our world. We're not basing it on that person. We're basing it on the customer, not on our customer, but on their customer.
Yeah.
So we do all our profiling, behavior modeling, everything based on how people buy that kind of product or service. And then the client comes into the picture, and it's all been mapped out very logically. So the client almost never has a question of that, because they participated in that whole process.
Right. Right.
So
of
we
course.
we don't get no's. We get, okay, this is great.
Yeah.
A question or two.
And they feel like it's theirs, and they've been part of the process from the beginning.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Our entire process. We don't go away and do it for clients. We do it with them.
Yeah. That's
It's
awesome.
always been our models, especially since launching Kayak, is we do it with them. We don't do it for them. In my experience, anytime you do something for somebody, then their own personality comes in and overrides.
Right.
And then you have challenges, which could end up with either conflict or disagreement and things like that. And it's not fun to do that.
Yeah.
I'd rather do something with somebody, and then the end result is, hey, we got what we were we knew where we were going. This was now the end result of that, and we're all good.
Love that.
Yeah, I had one client. It was kind of funny, kind of not funny. We had done our marketing process and went through, and the client had really given us some fantastic information, insights. They had done some research before. We did our marketing. We sat down and we said, okay, and here's our responses. We put together a roadmap of what to do now. And they went, agree. We can't do it. We'll have to fire all our staff.
What?
Yeah, and I went, so what are you going to do? Logic says your existing staff are trained to do something different than what you need to do.
Right. Interesting.
So your choices are you build your business or you take care of your staff.
Yeah.
I said, that's not my call.
Right.
We agree. We understand the behavior. We understand how to sell the clients. We know what your clients want. We know how they want it. We know everything about it. We have the exact makeup of how for you to be more successful as a business.
Right.
Right now you have existing staff who are trained in something else.
Right.
What are you going to do?
Holy shit. What happened?
They drug their heels for 6 months and then asked us if they could be released from our contract.
Really?
They actually did something that I appreciate. Is they said we have to support our staff. We can't rather than be more successful as a business, we'll be more helpful to our staff.
I love that. I hate it and
It's
love
kinda,
it and
it's
hate
kind
it.
of weird. But what would you do, right?
Yeah.
It's like everything says, if you want to be more successful at this business, you have to take path A. You're already on path B. It's not going to be as successful for you.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, you might struggle, but you're going to take care of your staff.
Interesting. Respect for that decision.
Yeah. Well, then the interesting part of it was that it took them 6 months to make that decision.
Wow.
Because it was 6 months of we won't do anything because we were afraid of doing something because we don't want
it would change everything.
Yeah.
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 Crazy. Huh.
But you know what? That was one instance. More often, what happens is people go, "Oh my God, I'm going to just change this." We had a public relations company come in and go through our program.
Oh, okay.
Halfway through the program, the founder says, "Oh my God, I've been selling to the wrong clients."
Really?
Yeah. Well,
I understand that.
the PR firm was working with large organizations. We're talking international or multinationals,
Right.
big, billion-dollar companies is what they were working with all the time, and she was never really happy.
Yeah.
We went through our program, and she realized that she liked entrepreneurs.
Interesting.
She liked small businesses. She liked restaurants and theater and things like this, and she loved working with those clients that had less money.
Interesting.
And she said, all of my advertising for the past 15, 18 years, she says, has been to big business. And
Wow.
I've never been happy.
Wow.
She says, I am going to change my message, and I'm going to talk to all those smaller people, small organizations, restaurants, theater, things.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be happier. I'm coming close to retirement. I'm going to retire happy.
That's awesome. Wow, you're changing lives, Randy.
Maybe.
That's wicked.
I should say that there's a part of our process is we look at we have a 3 Ps that we look for in business and prospects and whatnot, and this relates largely to those behaviors. Is our 3 Ps are product, process, and performance.
Yeah.
So if we listen on those conversations, whether it's prospecting or with clients, and we listen for conversations that identify which of those areas that they're thinking in. Because if people are thinking in terms of product, they're thinking about things like, I want a website redesign, or I need to buy some SEO, which, by the way, you can't do. Or I need somebody to do my posting for me.
Right.
We hear things like that all the time. And to us, that would be a product-oriented person, which is fantastic for retail, not so fantastic for anything outside of retail. So we do a lot of business to business.
Yeah.
And then we have process, and that's where somebody comes to us and says, okay, so we've been doing this. We'd like to know how to do it better.
Yeah.
Or we have a series of items that we need to do over the course of the year. We have a marketing program. We'd like to make sure that we get the best results from that. And so they're not thinking about the one task. They're thinking about what happens as a result of them doing multiple tasks in sequence to get the best value. So that would be process.
Yeah.
So or continuous improvement, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Those are wonderful conversations because not only do they mean, those conversations mean that they're thinking bigger than just that one task.
Right.
Bigger than that one logo, bigger than that one event. They're thinking about the sequence, and that's business continuity and growth of their business and supporting their teams and things like that.
Yeah.
And then there's our performance person who just says, I just want to win. And those are fun ones too.
Yeah.
Those are either an executive of a large corporation
Yeah.
that says, I need a bigger market share,
Right. Need to
or we're
dominate.
entering a new area, or it's an entrepreneur launching something new that just wants to do it without losing their shirt.
Right.
The three have financial relationships.
Sure.
A product person is looking for the cheapest way they can get that done.
Yeah.
They're buying on price. A process person has a budget that's probably been dictated to them that they need to fall within.
Right.
And so they want to get the biggest bang for the buck, but they're not going to rock the boat that much. And they understand how working with partners help them achieve better things.
Yeah.
And then our performance person is somebody that says, oh, it's $1 million. Am I going to make 5? Here's your $1 million.
Right.
The dollar sign does not matter to them.
Sure.
As long as they make a multiple, as long as they don't lose their shirt, as long as they achieve what they need to achieve, they don't care what the cost is because they've usually got the cash to do it.
Yeah.
So what happens is for example, in Kayak, we work with process and performance people.
Right.
Okay, we never worked with product people.
Sure.
Because we're engaging people in a coaching.
Yeah, it's a different. Yeah, it's a different thing altogether.
And we did that for 9 years, and then last year about this time, WordPress did an update, and they
Gutenberg.
Yeah, Gutenberg. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of people that got up in arms. We had about 50 clients on WordPress that just about tore my head off and spat down the hole.
That was a tough transition, man.
Yeah, so we looked at that and thought, wow, there's a whole bunch of clients that just got shafted because of an update.
Yeah.
And it's not our fault.
Yeah.
And it's an open source environment. We can't do anything about it. Our choices are either we fix things for them, or they create a new site, or they leave us and go to somebody else and create a new site.
Yeah.
But we looked at that and we thought, man, this is just not fair how this is working. And we sat down and I worked with my team, and we realized that what was actually missing in the Gutenberg rollout was a migration path.
Sure.
How do you go from classic editor to Gutenberg editor?
Right.
Because what happens when they introduced the Gutenberg editor, you no longer needed the page builders.
Right.
You no longer needed the custom layouts and templates. You now really could focus on having a header, footer, and leaving the content area alone.
Yeah.
Well, by doing that, they disabled all those tools that people had been using to patch the functionality of WordPress.
Yeah.
So, and we were one of them. We used page builders. We custom designed things for clients, and basically all those customizations, the page builder broke is what happened. So the site didn't break, just those elements did.
Sure. Yeah.
So we sat down, and a lot of our competitors are, and in many cases our peers, looked at that as an opportunity to generate revenue because it was new websites.
Sure.
Like
cha-ching.
Yeah, it might have been $5,000, it might have been 10, it might have been $25,000 per site.
Yeah.
Do the math on that with 50 sites. That's money. That's real money.
Damn.
We were looking at that and we thought that's probably not the way we want to proceed because we're going to be the bad guy.
Sure.
I don't want to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
So I sat down with my team and we figured out that if we built our own theme, we could create the migration path. So you can imagine when was the last time you built a site? It probably took you weeks or months, right? Yeah. It's not something you do in a day. So we sat down and we thought, okay, what can we do? We put together a theme. We took a couple of our client sites and we transitioned them into Gutenberg. And what we did is on the very first site is we managed to do it in about 3 hours.
Whoa.
And we thought, hey, that's better than 3 days or 3 weeks or 3 months.
Yep.
And then we did a couple others and we got them, again, 2-3 hours. And then we got it down to a point and we tweaked our theme and how we did our automations to bring sites over. And we got it down to about 15 minutes.
Jesus.
So we took all of our client sites and converted them. So and we did them within the scope of a week. So everybody had new sites, all of our clients that were on WordPress. And so I thought after that, hey, this is kind of cool. Now what are we going to do with this? We've got this new tool. And it really is just a theme. And I thought, well, I'll just release it in the marketplace. And now we would have a product.
Right.
And then I looked at and saw that the best, most highest priced, most valued ones were about $80 a year,
Yeah.
or $80 period.
Yeah.
And most of them were free. And I thought, well, okay, so people are not going to get this transition, how this theme works.
Right.
So I think what I'm going to do is, instead of just releasing the theme, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it into a service instead.
Oh.
And so basically we launched our own WordPress platform using our theme.
And this is the Flow Whoa sites.
Yes, FLOWWW sites.com.
Yeah.
Yes. So that one there. So what happened is now we can create a site for a client within about 4 minutes, and then which readies them to put in their content. WordPress has an import feature.
Right.
So they export from their live site. We import into our site. They have a whole new website built and ready to go within a couple of hours, all fully fledged, everything. So that's what they do now, or they do start from scratch, in which case they just start typing.
Crazy.
What we've done with Flow Sites is we pre-installed, pre-configured all the best-in-class plugins, things like social warfare for sharing. Yoast is in there, of course, for SEO and things like that. And they're all put in there, pre-configured, and then hidden.
Do you have to buy the licenses for Yoast and stuff like that? Or
No, we have all developer licenses or the free tools.
Oh, okay.
And so the developer licenses.
So we don't
are
have to
unlimited.
spend like another couple $100 on
Nothing.
plugins.
Nothing.
Crazy.
And
I'm
and,
in. Sign
so,
me up.
So a part of this was that we realized that a lot of the challenge when we come into any kind of website environment is marketers aren't necessarily technologists.
Right.
So a big challenge and a big distraction is, hey, what happens if I push this button?
Right.
And next thing you know, they have a site that doesn't work so well, and they get cluttered sites. And so what we did is we put in the plugins that are needed, and then we hid them, all pre-configured. So if somebody comes in, they run their site, they don't even know it's running.
Crazy.
So, and that everything works properly. They have access to all the tools. They can use it to manipulate their content, but they can't change the plugins. And if they were to go in and change some settings, we would just reset it. If they ran into a problem. So we're in an environment now where it's basically technology is handled by us. That's the $100 a year fee.
So it's kind of like, it's a little bit like Apple. You're sort of sandboxed your development environment.
That's right. That's right. So, and if somebody does need something really crazy fancy, we would just say, go ahead and use it yourself. Go deploy your own WordPress.
Interesting.
So it's entry level, or I wouldn't even say entry level, because we have clients on our platform now, U.S. clients, Canadian clients, law firms.
Is it $100 a year per site?
Yeah, $100 a year per site.
And do you look after the hosting with that, or is that?
Yeah, we provide all the hosting and everything. It's all within our environment. That $100. To be honest with you, our costs on running that service is not counting any kind of labor, but our costs are under $2,000 a year. So we put a price tag of $100 a year for a site, just to make sure we don't get all the spammers and stuff in there.
Yeah, sure.
Just to keep it clean, and people apply to for an account, and if it's legit, we have some pretty strict terms.
Yeah.
If you do something, if you're doing porn, if you're doing something stupid, we just ask you don't get a refund.
Right.
You don't get back in.
You're done.
Yeah. And but basically we take care of the platform, you take care of your content. Okay. When we do an installation where we do our demo content, which happens probably 60% of the time, on our demo we have a home page, an inside page, a contact page, and a blog page. On the inside page, it gives them all instruction on how to do that link strategy we talked about.
Oh, interesting. That's awesome. So again,
it's all do it
educating
yourself. Yeah,
that's wicked.
So the idea is now. So that's what we've done for Flow Sites. So with Kayak, we take care of process and performance type clients, which are typically larger clients. Most of our engagements are 30, 60K higher. When we do an engagement with a small company, it's $100. Here you go. If you want to hire us, we'll do some time or something like that and get you started. And you do it yourself. There's no reason why you can't do it yourself.
I love it.
So and just out of the box, you have a higher quality site than you'll get from most agencies.
Outstanding. Wow. All right. This seems like a perfect point in the program to flip the script a little bit. So what I'd like to do, and I mentioned this at the beginning, is that towards the end of the show, I'd like to get you to, give rebels in waiting, these people that are out there in the world thinking that they want to do something different. It could be website stuff. It could be like it could be my son who wants to become a website designer guy, and he wants to start his own hustle or his own business. Or it could be the guy that's stuck in a cubicle. But before we do that, I want to give to you, because it's minus 30 in Calgary, and I've been trying to keep the heat off so that the audio isn't affected too bad by the furnace. So I know that you're freezing. So I've got from our sponsor, the Friday Sock Company.
Oh, nice.
They're purposely mismatched socks. They're ethically made. It's the Friday Sock Company, and right now Adam is over in Italy getting the next run made. So
Very
I wanted
cool.
you to have those as a guest.
And just so everybody knows, it's polar bears
Yeah, and
and penguins.
polar bears and penguins.
Nice. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're very
I
welcome.
appreciate it. That'll be my third layer of socks today.
You got to stay warm, man. That's awesome. So just to respin it back, what advice do you have to the rebels in waiting?
Okay, so my advice is to make friends, do it online as well as off, expand your circles, make friends. Don't look at people like they're a pork chop. It's not the thickness of their wallet, it's the conversations you can have, the quality of conversations.
Right.
You never know what will happen.
Right.
And just do it. Just get out there and make it happen. And back in 2009, when I was diagnosed with cancer, at that time, I realized that if I had passed away, if I had checked out at that point, I would have left nothing. There was nothing meaningful about what I did because I took orders. I didn't provide leadership. And that's the thing that happened when we launched Kayak, is we switched to providing leadership. In that, conversations changed. We went international as an agency. Just incredible opportunities opened up for us when we stopped taking orders.
That's wicked. Randy, thank you so much for joining me on the show. That was fantastic.
Well, thanks for having me over. This was great.
Thanks. Thanks so much for listening to the Rebel podcast. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcasts. It's everywhere. We're everywhere. It's amazing. And we're in season 3. We have so many more great guests coming up. You don't want to miss it. And thanks so much to our sponsor, the Friday Sock Company, for making every day feel like Friday. Oh, and if you happen to know a rebel, or you are a rebel and want to be on the show, hit us up at rebel@therebelrebelpodcast.com. We'll see you next time. I'm your host, Michael Dargy. Thanks for listening.